Hi everyone, and welcome to Real Life Talks. I'm your host Yvonne Heath, author of the book Love Your Life to Death and founder of the I Just Showed Up movement. So I'm so excited today. We have a very, very juicy topic to discuss with the lovely Tina Hannan. Tina, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes. Well, if I think that people don't want to talk about grief, death, and dying, because that's a taboo subject, we've got an even bigger one. And let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex, like the song, because it's a part of our journey. It's a part of our health.
Absolutely.
And we're not doing a very good job. So I invited you to join us because you are a public health nurse with Simcoe, Muskoka District Health Nurse for 31 years, 31 and a half.
Yes.
Yes, and we got you just before you retire.
That's true.
I'm so, thank goodness. I'm so glad. But you've been
on a high.
Yes, that's wonderful. And you've been working in the sexual health program for 8 years.
Yes.
Yes. So let's start with, why did you choose to work in that department, and what has it meant to you? How's it been going?
I have always thought from fairly young age, in my teens, that sexual health is important. Mm-hmm. And when I began work at the health unit, we didn't have sexual health clinics in the local offices. It was centered in Barrie.
Oh, okay.
And I had a family and kids, and that was important to me. But it's always been an interest of mine. Mm-hmm. I've always felt it's very important. And so could finally, in these last few years, mm-hmm. What feels like home to me, come home to sexual health. It's my thing.
Right.
It's my passion.
Yeah. And
helping people.
Well, and I love just the way you're saying it, sexual health, because when we normalize these conversations, we can educate, we can give people the right facts. And truthfully, when people say abstinence is the answer, is that helpful?
Well, it really isn't.
It really isn't.
It might be the answer for some people, and
yes.
So we will support whatever the decision is.
Yes.
For whatever person. They have to make that decision for themselves. Mm-hmm. But most people that I'm seeing, it's not about abstinence. It's about managing their sexual health mm-hmm. In many different ways and
yes.
venues and so on. And they're not coming to see me for abstinence reasons.
Well, and that's the thing, and that is the reality. So it's like anything. This is happening. People are having premarital sex. And, people sometimes don't marry until they're in their 30s. So for the most part, it's unrealistic to think that abstinence is going to work for everyone. If it does, that's great. So for the 99% of the rest of the population, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and let's give people the right information. And
absolutely.
So the health unit, they have a sexual health program. So what is that all about? So
part of what we do is around sexually transmitted infections and preventing them, mm-hmm. Treating them, like identifying them and treating them, helping people make decisions about their sexual health in terms of birth control and STI prevention. Mm-hmm. Also, sexuality, mm-hmm. Navigating some of the sexual health feelings, choices, and so on that people from young ages into, I've seen people in their 70s. So
right.
The whole spectrum of age and things around sexual health. Mm-hmm. So we're a lot about sexual health, STI prevention,
yes.
Helping young women with birth control. Making decisions or whatever around that, and also providing support to people who may find themselves pregnant and trying to make an informed decision around
Right,
that.
absolutely. And when you say talking about STIs, sexually transmitted
Infections.
infections, no longer, it used to be STDs. What happened?
did.
It change? So now
And
it's
it might change again. But
yes, it's okay.
hopefully not
STIs.
before I retire, but yeah.
Yes, right. So STIs. But here's the thing about prevention. Kids people who are going to have sex need to know how to what they are and what can be prevented and what can't be prevented, and what is something that you will have for the rest of your life, and the consequences, because it can be very serious.
It can be.
And I don't think people are aware, oh, it's not, it won't happen to me.
Yeah, I see that a lot. I also
okay.
see a lot of people saying, well, I don't have any symptoms, so I'm fine.
I'm fine.
And that's not the case, because for every STI, there's a percentage of people that won't have any symptoms. So if you're having sex and, even if you are using condoms, but particularly if you're not, then you're at risk if you've had more than one partner and so on.
Yes.
And they've had more than one partner. And so there's a lot of information that we provide for people and support them. And so many people come in very nervous.
Sure.
Feeling awkward. And then it's great to see them just visibly relax when they know that it's a non-judgmental
Right.
setting, and we're there to support them.
And you had mentioned that that's something that you are very passionate about, and that's
Yes.
very rewarding for you to
has
see
been.
someone, and this is what I want to say to everybody, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, yes, just show up anyways and go get the information, and to know that someone will be there to, it's not your job to judge or to fix, but to give information in a safe environment.
That's definitely what we're all about.
Yes, yes. And you hit on something that is just so critical, is the undetectable equals untransmittable. And people believe this, oh, I don't have any symptoms, so I'm fine.
Right. So a lot of times, no symptoms for them means no infection.
Right.
And it can be years before something might have been actually picked up, detected.
Right.
So with chlamydia, for example, what U equals U means, undetectable equals untransmittable, is in relation to HIV.
Okay.
We know now that people who have HIV, who are on treatment, seeing their doctors, doing all the right things that they need to be doing, if they reach a viral load, a level that is undetectable,
Okay.
it means that they can't pass it on.
So that's what that means, undetectable equals untransmittable. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, you're educating me now. So that's okay.
It's something that has been
That's evolved.
proven. Yes, it has.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's very different.
In the last few years.
I'm an old married woman, so I don't know. I don't think about any of this anymore. But yeah,
fairly new.
yes,
And the scientific community has determined that, and people are on board now. It does mean regular testing,
Sure.
and so on, to make sure that the viral load is undetectable. But yeah,
that's incredible, though. HIV, I mean, in the 80s it just killed
yes, it
like
did.
masses of people. And to come to this,
That's
so which also shows how important it is to be on top of health and being aware and seeking treatment if you need treatment, and forget the stigma thing. If you have a concern, if you've had unprotected sex, if you've had, just call the health unit.
Yeah, we have a phone line. They can speak to someone on the phone. They don't have to give their name, so they can get that support on the phone. They can send questions by email. If they go to our website,
Oh, okay.
there's an option at the bottom of most of the pages to say, click here to send an email.
Well, that's
But
wonderful.
yeah, it's really important to get that education.
Yes, and so what about those from our LGBTQ? Am I missing two-spirited community, would they be able to get great support from our health units as well?
Absolutely. So that's another thing that they can come to speak to us about if they're questioning, they are not sure where they're at, they're confused or whatever, or wanting to know where they can get support.
Right.
Then we have some resources that we can connect
You have
them
resources.
to.
Well, I love, it's come such a long way. I mean, I think back to high school, college, or I don't even know where I would have ever turned for information, and that's so important. So let's talk about how I feel, and I believe you feel, about sex education in our school system, because it's interesting. It's like anything when, it's not up to this person or that person. It's not their actual job to do to teach this. Like at home, you don't have to. And in the school, when people are leaving it to the school system, I have to say I feel for these teachers, right? I really do. They are not experts in this field. They are not experts in sexual health. It's like, you get this class, and by the way, you have to teach sex ed. I don't think that's fair to the teachers, and I don't think it's fair to the students, because this is far too important a conversation to just, so I told you, as I mentioned, I have 14-year-old twins, and their teachers tried their very best, but then there were strikes and things didn't happen. And they got their education in grades 7 and 8. There are already kids already having sex, and they've gone through puberty. So what if they're not having these conversations at home? How terrifying.
Well, it is, because
so frustrating.
There are young women who will start their period and not know what it is. So that can be very terrifying too.
Awful.
But the conversation needs to start at a very young age, as you and I were saying, with appropriate names for body parts even.
Yes, please. Yes. There's nothing here's a cookie, nothing here's like there.
Exactly.
Everything has, our anatomy all has names. And if we normalize the conversations about appropriate names for our genitalia, kids will just grow, oh, it's not a big deal.
Right. I think we've tended to, in North America anyway, sort of create this mystery and then attraction to sexual health. And it is a part of our health, right? It's a part of our whole being, but we're treating it as some big taboo.
Yes.
And then we're doing a disservice to those kids.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, just because you're educating a child, about sex or drugs or alcohol, it doesn't mean they're going to go out and have sex and do drugs. We need to give them the information. And the greatest system, or the greatest thing that I saw, so I have all my notes here, right? On YouTube, I saw a clip. The Netherlands approach to sex ed puts America to shame. So I think I encourage everybody to go to YouTube, type in the Netherlands sex ed. And I asked you to watch it. What did you think? They take sex ed throughout school?
It's sort of matter-of-factly, right?
Yes.
This is a part of our lives, and I thought it was awesome.
I thought it was awesome.
The children, I don't know how old the young girl was, asking a question that, the question, did they make love? And the teacher said, yeah,
yes,
they made love. They were talking about the mom being pregnant, I think. And, well, the stats have proven that in the Netherlands, the teen pregnancy rate is low, and STIs
is lower.
Yeah.
And kids having sex, they're more, like when we demystify it, it's like, oh, okay, that's what it's about. They have questions when they're young children, and when they ask the questions, they are answered appropriately and honestly throughout school. So it's not like you wait and you have these questions, but no one's talking to you, and then grades 7 and 8, you pull out the sex ed, and see all these kids, they're so embarrassed. Like,
it is. Right,
like,
it's embarrassing when you are not allowed to talk about it or don't talk about it for so many years, although they're talking about it probably.
Oh, but are they
amongst
getting the
themselves.
accurate information?
Well, this is it.
Right?
Not likely.
Yes.
Or maybe, but it's hit and miss.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a disservice.
It really is a disservice. And like I said, when they just throughout school, throughout in every grade, age appropriate,
Age appropriate, yeah.
open, honest conversations. And so by the time they are teenagers or older and the conversations are more, okay, so here are more facts, right? Piling up, like continuing the education, not just one day, okay, let's have this.
We're going to talk about it, everything in this hour or whatever it is.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's
and I
just
remember this
difficult.
lovely teacher who was just trying so hard and it was just absolutely mortified that they had to teach sex ed. Well, if they're embarrassed, how are kids going to be having these open conversations? And maybe there are kids who are, from the LGBTQ, they're confused or they need some facts. They're not going to ask this teacher who's kind of like, let's just get through this. One teacher actually said to me, because I said, are my kids, are you doing sex ed? My kids know more about it than they ever were. It's like, Mom, we don't want to know all this. I said, well, I'm sorry. You are going to be informed. We're going to have these conversations. But this teacher actually said to me that she waited till June so that she could just kind of get it done, and then the kids were out.
Out. Yeah.
What? So if they had any questions, and if they, if they didn't have them, if they weren't able to get them answered at home, well, now I'll say call the public health unit.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they could. Whether they do or not, I don't know.
I don't think they will.
It's a difficult time anyway, right, at that age?
Yes, they're so awkward.
The preteen, teen, it's awkward. They've already been dealing with questions or concerns. Am I normal? Is this normal?
Yeah.
And if they do have, if they're in a situation where they're questioning
Gender confusion or
all of that just adds a whole other layer.
Yes.
Which it could be avoided.
Exactly, and we need to have these conversations. And so I also mentioned that I'd found an article that Lauren Bielstock had written, and she is an educator at University of Toronto for educational ethics. And one of the things that she said, and I'm sorry parents, you don't want to hear this, but we are dramatically underestimating what children are up to. It is incredibly naive. And there are children that at age 11, the average first exposure to pornography, and sometimes even earlier, online. Right? And that's what she said. And we don't understand, they can see violence and the influence of porn, being able to see this pornography, we have grossly underestimated. Now that is very frightening.
It would be frightening, and it would be maybe the first scene or exposure that this is what's normal.
This is sex. Yes.
Right, this is sex.
Yes, and I actually know someone who went through that with their very young, innocent child, happened across this site.
Oh, yeah.
And all of these horrific things were happening, and you think, this is just devastating. And I mean, you can have blocks, and you can, but maybe your child has a friend who doesn't have blocks on his phone, and he thinks it's pretty funny. I mean, we can't protect our children from everything.
No.
We can try, but let's educate them. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, the in that Netherlands clip, they talked about educating them from a young age so that it demystified everything and normalized it, and then they didn't have the same questions or concerns.
It wasn't as intriguing.
No.
Yeah. And it's like anything, if you want to know about this? Well, here are all the facts. If you say, we can't talk about that until you're older and you're too young to know about this, well, doesn't that just make you that much more curious, right? So, Tina, what do we need to do here? What are some steps that parents, let's start with parents. I mean, what are some steps parents could take, should take to to move forward with this, because I don't think it should just fall on the laps of the educators or public health, or, you know, to me, again, it's like anything. It's a community. We all need to be a part of this.
It's almost a chicken and egg situation, right? Because if the teacher feels comfortable, you know, or if they grew up getting the information like in the Netherlands from a young age, age-appropriate discussions and so on, they're more likely to then approach the subject that way.
Yes,
themselves.
exactly.
I think it needs to start when we're talking about parenting and a child's health, you know, when we start, how we choose to feed them, making the transition to solid foods, how do we help them sleep, and what about their sexual health? And so it begins there, and then it continues, and it's age appropriate. So you're not necessarily talking about sexual intercourse at age 4.
Of course.
It is based on what the child identifies as a question. Not always just their questions, like, you know, it's also introducing the information. There's lots of opportunities. If they're watching television, you can see animals in nature are procreating. So,
dogs down the road.
Yeah, it can
happens.
be, and then that's an opportunity for a discussion.
Yes.
And if parents are feeling uncomfortable, then they can give us a call too.
Bingo. And that is exactly what I was going to say. If you're uncomfortable as a parent, that's okay. I mean, maybe you didn't have great sex ed, and maybe in your family it was a taboo thing. So that's okay. Get information yourself. And again, especially if, you know, your child is saying they have questions about their own sexuality, as far as being gay or transgender or any of that. Get the information, educate yourself, and again, it's okay to be uncomfortable.
It is, and,
It's
and
okay,
identify
but-
it and say, you know, this is, I'm a little uncomfortable because
Yes.
I didn't talk about this growing up.
Exactly.
But let's look at this together. And they can find the information and, you know, online or giving us a call or whatever, and then, you know, addressing it little bit by little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And if children are asking, they're curious. They're curious.
Yes.
So that, to me, I always just fall back on, let's be honest. Right?
Let's be honest.
Let's just be honest.
You don't have to give the full explanation. I made that mistake with my own kids. I was always about answering their questions, and, you know, they would ask a question and I would give all the information.
Like, whoa,
That's how the
TMI,
whole-
too much information.
Yeah, that's how the whole Santa Claus thing came out. We were talking about this the other day, and I told my daughter the whole thing.
Yep.
That's not what she was looking for. She was just thinking that my husband or I had responded to her letter to Santa.
Right.
And I just thought, I can't live this lie anymore. I have to tell everything.
Full disclosure.
Anyway, yes. But so when it comes to sexual health, you don't have to get into the full discussion. It starts, for example, with naming the body parts, and then you see someone who, a woman who's pregnant, a family member or whatever, and that can lead to a natural discussion that, again, doesn't have to talk about the whole sexual act or any of that, but just talking about how a baby is made. And a lot of times the kids will lead you to the discussion and how
Right.
much information they
It's
want.
like, I've had enough, I'm out.
I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried to have a very casual, because I always say in the car, or there's always opportunities and they present themselves, right?
The car is an amazing
it is.
place. It is.
So yeah, with our older son, I tried to be very cool, and it kind of came up, and I said, oh, you know, we can talk about sex, and he said, I'm going to stop you right now. We're going to learn about that next year, and Patrick says it's disgusting. End of conversation. So I just said, okay, well, I just want to make sure you have the right information. He was having none of it from me. And so obviously, of course, you know, it slowly came up over time, but
Yes.
your kids will let you know
Yes.
when they're ready. But I do believe that it is our responsibility as a community, certainly as parents, to educate ourselves and to normalize these conversations. If you have these conversations, I promise you, it doesn't mean your kids are going to go out and have sex.
Exactly. I believe it's all about being an askable parent.
Oh, I like
So
that. I like
if
that.
your child feels that they can come to you, not just about sexual health, but a lot.
Yes.
Or everything.
Yes.
Then they're more likely to come to you when they have questions or concerns about some of this stuff that makes you suck in your breath a little bit because it's a little
scary.
A little scary.
Yes.
But if they know that they can come to you no matter what, if you don't know the answer, if you're uncomfortable about it, but you're going to work on it together, that's what they need, throughout their lives.
Throughout their lives. And it's okay to say, you know what, I'm kind of uncomfortable. I don't actually know the answer, but I'm going to find out.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it. And I always say, like a rusty wheel, these conversations. I mean, I remember the first conversation with my daughter about periods. I was uncomfortable, and I'm a nurse. Like I was uncomfortable because I didn't want my little girl to have to think about this, right? Mm-hmm. And then she just looked at me, she's like, you what? Well, how long does this last? And I thought, oh, you are not going to like this answer either. But once we had the conversation long before it arrived, so that by the time it happened, she had all the information.
Yeah,
and that's what we need to do. So where's this magic number or that people can get information?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, it's www.simcoemuskokahealth.org.
Okay.
There's a lot of resources there or links to reliable resources. And our phone number is 705-721-7520. You get through to the main line, and then there's, push this number for sexual health. I believe it's 3, but it'll walk you through. And there's all kinds of programs, immunization and so on. But yes, and then the toll-free number is 1-877-721-7520.
All right, and people can send an email. They can get the questions answered, and thank you for everything that you do to bring this conversation out into the open. Let's all be askable parents. I really love that. And thank you, and happy retirement, which is coming right around the corner.
It is.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Yvonne.
So this has been Real Life Talks, a show about learning how to just show up for yourself and just show up for others. And sometimes having awkward conversations that we have to have. And one of them is, let's talk about sex. So if you want to be empowered and resilient, if you want to be able to just show up for yourself and for others, my call to action, as always, plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Bye for now. And that's what I say. And Deanna, I can't remember if that was 3 minutes that you did, or was I?